Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. The Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City proceedings will begin. The board is now in session. In the absence of Chairman Albert Matriciani, Commissioner Greenfield will be serving as acting chair today. If you're in possession of any type of electronic device, please place said device on the off or silent mode during proceedings. There'll be no preliminary matters on the docket. I call the very first case of Old Federal Hill Liquors, 1230-32 Light Street. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership, requesting delivery of alcoholic beverages. Please come forward.
No, she's
Please.
Good morning. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge Commissioner Hafey has her father and sister here. She told me not to announce it, but she's not the chair today. So, unfortunately, she doesn't get that vote. But did you want to say anything? No.
No. Thank you.
Good morning. If you could approach and speak into the microphone, you're being recorded, and if you have, you're being recorded, and so when you speak, please come close to the mic. Gentleman to my far left will swear you in. Mr. Hurdle?
Abraham Hurdle on behalf of 1230 Light Street, Min & Min, Inc. With me is Amy Thomas and Kyung Min Min. This is a transfer from the previous owners. The previous owners are, in fact, Ms. Kyung Min Min's parents. The license was in for a transfer hearing last June. It was approved. There was a hardship around 6 months later, and they asked for the 30-day extension as well. 90-day extension, 3 months. Unfortunately, it wasn't completed. This is a case that was being handled by the late Brian Everett. So all we're doing at this point, this transfer application is identical to the previous one that was approved last June. And we're just asking the board to essentially reconsider the same application along the same terms.
Great. Can we get the witnesses sworn in case?
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
If I may continue just
Please.
briefly. The location has never stopped operating. They took over more or less under a management agreement as of I think it was June 22nd was when the hearing was approved. And they've been operating it since with the assistance of Ms. Kyung Min Min's parents, who again were the former owners, I guess current owners technically in that capacity. There's been no lapse in terms of it being open. It's the same application. My understanding is it's roughly a mirror in every capacity. I am filling in for Mr. Kadensky today.
Including the outdoor service?
It's a liquor store,
Sorry, the delivery of alcoholic beverages.
My understanding is the application was just more or less copied from the previous application. I'm filling in for Mr. Kadensky.
Sure.
I would say that, yes, that's the situation. That's what I've been told.
Can we get Ms. Min, can she speak to your experience? I know that Mr. Hurdle mentioned something about you've been managing the operation. You're obviously seeking to purchase from your parents. Can you speak to your experience in running this store?
I mean, I'm still, they're helping me, so they're there all the time, so I have no, issues.
How long?
Have,
Go ahead, please.
have you worked in the establishment before? Have you been working
Yeah,
there?
helping them before,
How long?
Since I got married, they're my parents-in-law, so I married 10 years, so ever since I came to America, their own liquor store, so I helping them since then,
Is that the only experience you've had working in an establishment?
The liquor store, or, that's my first experience, yes.
And I see no violations at all from the current owners. Any outreach with the community? Any involvement with the area around it?
I have no knowledge with regards to the community or reaching out to them. My understanding was the transfer was approved unanimously last year. It's essentially more or less within the family. That's my understanding.
And we have no opposition in our
No.
in our documents at all, and no one here to testify against it, just for the record.
I was just going to say,
Thomas.
I've spoken with the neighborhood association, and they gave approval for
Okay,
this.
great. Commissioner Jones, do you have any questions?
None.
Commissioner Hafey?
No further questions?
Okay. Based on the evidence before us, I would vote to approve the transfer of the ownership with the continuation of the delivery of alcoholic beverages.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer of ownership with the continuation of delivery of alcoholic beverages.
I concur with all of the above.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Thank you. Good luck.
Cookhouse, 1501 Bolton Street. This is a Class D beer and wine license, an application to transfer ownership with continuation of outdoor table service. Please come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Associate Commissioners. David, Mr. Winter, and Bartlett representing the applicants for this transfer. This is an existing Class B beer and wine license that's been in operation for a substantial period of time in Bolton Hill. We expect to continue with the same type of presentation as existing there. No significant changes to the premises. They're just going to do some refurbishing on the interior, assuming the board would approve this transfer. My clients also are buying the real estate there from Mrs. Karzai, who is present with us today. And if you had any questions from them, it has not been a problem. Certainly the people in Bolton Hill would be very vocal if they were having problems with any of their local business establishments. It hasn't been. I think it's a welcome spot, and I expect the community will welcome Mr. Daly and what he expects. I do have.
Mr. Can we just swear in the witnesses
Sure,
first?
absolutely.
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. We do have some updated menus that we have prepared.
Thank you.
It's changed slightly. If I can give this to Mr. Jones, there we go. Thank you for the premises. So you'll have a full menu. And Mr. Daly, who's the applicant, I'd like him to testify about his background and his hours of operation and things like that. Mr. Daly, please tell the board about your background in the restaurant business, and particularly in Baltimore City.
Well, I've been owner of a local establishment nearby. This place called On the Hill Cafe.
Which does not hold a license,
It
correct?
doesn't hold a license, and we've been there for the last 13 years.
You have previously, though, been a partial owner and operator of an alcoholic beverage license establishment in South Baltimore, is that correct?
In Federal Hill, yes, called Centro. We held that from 2010 to 2012.
Mr. Daly, any violations at that establishment? Any issues?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So you have substantial experience in selling alcoholic beverages on sale at retail, is that not correct?
That's correct, yes.
You expect to have a policy and practice at this restaurant if the board were to approve this transfer to identify the appropriate age for patrons to purchase alcoholic beverages, is that correct?
Absolutely.
You also expect to train your service staff in an alcohol awareness training program, is that not correct?
Correct.
And you also know that you're not allowed to serve anyone who appears to be visibly under the influence of alcoholic beverages, is that not correct?
That is correct.
What will your hours of operation be?
Monday through Friday, we estimating, and it's not set in stone yet, but we're gonna do from 7 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. And actually Fridays and Saturdays will close at 10, and then Sundays close back at 9 o'clock.
And how many employees do you expect to have?
Less than 15,
Less than 15, okay. And this is going to be a pretty much full-time job for you, is it not?
that is correct.
Okay. Your other restaurant that doesn't have a license is being managed by someone else?
That is correct. I still oversee the operation.
And that's just a few blocks away also, isn't it?
Just 2 blocks
Okay.
away.
And is your wife going to assist you in this operation?
No, she does something else.
Okay. So it's going to be your baby, so to speak?
That is correct.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Yeah, we have a letter, Commissioner Hayfie, would you like to, we have a letter of opposition. I don't know if you've received it.
Have
Sir.
not.
It was dated July 26th from a nearby resident. Let's see if we have I've marked this one up.
Thank you. I don't even think they sent a copy to us.
Doesn't appear so, but Mr. Michael Phillips is seeking to protest the application. He lives next door and contends that he will be impacted by the operation, specifically the outdoor table service. And so he is asking for certain conditions on the transfer, which are listed in the letter. The letter has been accepted as part of the evidence.
If I might comment, I would say that Mr. Phillips, who I assume is not present here, according to the State Alcoholic Beverages Code, he would need to be here in person, or to have standing to object. Now, I understand he's got these concerns. I will tell you that I've had discussions with my client. He is happy to interact with the community in all positive ways to try and make them feel comfortable about things. And if particularly someone who has perhaps a broader representation, so to speak, community association or whatever, wants to have a dialogue, we'll be happy to continue to interact with them. We don't expect to be operational here until next spring, probably. So there will be a period of time because we're going to do some refurbishing and things like that. So if there are some issues, we'll be very open to any kind of dialogue. I think that's the best I can say. Unfortunately, it's hard for me to respond to this, seeing it now
Sure,
for
understood.
30 seconds.
Has there been, before today, any attempt to reach out to the community?
I think the applicant has spoken to one of the leaders of the community association.
Is that
I'm
Bolton
actually
Hill?
on the board.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we're on an understanding, they just want to have, their approval is, we basically handshake, and everything is fine, they have no issues. They just want to make sure we do, we don't stay up late, and, we don't do loud music, and that's it.
My question, who is George Daly?
This is Mr. Daly.
All right, the letter here in the last paragraph stated that Mr. Phillips contacted you, is that correct?
I have not seen that letter.
Have
Not
you
the letter, I'm asking you, did he contact you?
I don't, oh,
We've spoken to the main one of the house.
okay.
May I speak? Or?
Yes, yes, please, just state your name if you could.
Jessica Daly. So, yes, my husband and I have been away, and while we were away, the wife of Michael Phillips, who we know them, they reached out to us, and they just wanted to make sure that basically, and I haven't had a chance to read this letter, but that we would have an agreement that, we would keep the trash in a reasonable place, the tables would be, designed in a way that they're not spilling out onto their property. I will say that Michael Phillips and his wife purchased their property that's next door while it was being run as a long-term restaurant. So they clearly knew what they were buying. They were living next door to a restaurant.
Understand.
And it's going to be operated the same exact way, so.
Reading the letter, I mean, they want the place open, but they just want you to abide by
Yeah.
these
That's-
guidelines.
And that's
the
totally-
guidelines that they are asking you to abide by are legal things.
Are
right?
legal
that
things.
you must do.
They're
anyway.
Absolutely.
That's what I was going to say.
Normal operation.
I just want to hear you say that you're going to
Right,
abide by
sure.
the rules and regulations.
Absolutely, we are going to abide by
Mm-hmm.
them.
That was going to be my observation, Mr. Jones. It seems to be these are all things they're required to do to comply with the law. They wouldn't have to have an MOU to say, I'll abide by the law. And certainly we understand that, and would be subject, obviously, to appearing before this board or otherwise be sanctioned by other city agencies if they didn't.
That's correct. Commissioner Havey? Ma'am, I don't think you've been sworn in. If you could get sworn in, and we'll hear from you.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And your name?
Suzanne Brockman. I'm a community member.
If you could step
and-
up, just so we could hear you.
Hi, everyone. Suzanne Brockman. I'm a community member in Bolton Hill, and just to speak to that issue, I came just in general support of the applicants. I've been in the community for 17 years. I'm not in an official position in the community at present, but I have been on the MRIA board in the past. And I can tell you just anecdotally that the community in general is very supportive and excited about this established and experienced restaurateur to open up in a key location in the neighborhood. And everyone's just, generally very excited and anticipating having a good restaurant to be able to walk to.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for coming and testifying.
Thank you very much.
A question about the outdoor tables. How many do you intend to have?
I don't know exactly how many you had before, but we're just gonna keep it the same.
The same.
Eight tables.
8 tables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ma'am, what's your first name?
Patricia Carson.
Yeah, we did, I think, attach a copy of the proposed use plan, and it does show 8 tables at the outdoor seating with a total of 16 seats, it appears.
Now, Mr. Misser, you had mentioned something that you don't expect this establishment, assuming we approve it, to be operational until the spring.
Yeah, and I know that you have a 180-day rule here. I think Mr. Daly's concerned about, with the holidays intervening and with his construction people and engineers, that there will be some delays occasioned. So if I can keep the board informed with status reports, if necessary, come back to get permission for an extension of time. We're going to try and stay within the guidelines as best we can. But
No, absolutely. I appreciate that.
it's certainly better than somewhere I've been, where sometimes it takes them 18 months to build out their premises and things like that. At least we're mostly there.
Mr. Daly, can we get some commitment from you that you will reach out to Mr. Phillips and
Absolutely.
work with him? And should there be an MOU that goes above and beyond what the law says, that you would obviously come back before the board and we'd attach to your license? We can have that discussion later, but I guess what I'm looking for is some commitment that you will, in fact, reach out to Mr. Phillips and address his concerns.
Definitely, I'm
Thank you.
committing to do that.
Mr. Greenfield, I'm going to give him a copy of this letter, and he can duplicate and send it to me so that he knows exactly what Mr. Phillips' concerns are, and they can have a dialogue now that they're back in the country. And these people are going to be neighbors of theirs,
Right.
next-door neighbors, so.
Right. Terrific. Great. Thank you. Commissioners, anything else?
Nothing
Great.
further.
Based
Thank
on
you.
the evidence and testimony before us, I would vote to approve the transfer of ownership with the continuation of outdoor table service.
I concur and vote to approve the transfer of ownership.
I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much.
Thank you.
And call exhibits for the record.
George, come on down here, we got to get.
Mr. Mister. Board Exhibit 1, letter of opposition from Michael Phillips dated 7/26/2018. Applicant Exhibit 1, menu. Thank you. No, no money's owed. Thank you.
Grab my cane here.
This Beer House, 1542 Light Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. An application to expand premises to include the second floor. Please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Acting Chairman, members of the board, Peter Previs on behalf of the licensee.
Mr. Previs,
Nathan
it seemed
McKinney.
in your greeting there, you placed a special emphasis on acting.
He did, I noticed it.
You know, I won't take that personally, but good morning. If we could swear in your witness, that'd be great.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Good morning. This is an application to expand the licensed premises to the second floor of the existing premises, which is Das Beer House Restaurant located at 1542 Light Street. Mr. McKinney is the sole licensee and the sole owner of the establishment. He opened up January 8th of 2016, and he's run a fairly successful German-themed restaurant since that time. We were here previously in February of 17 to provide for the outdoor table service. The license currently has outdoor table service, catering, delivery, and live entertainment, and has had the live entertainment for quite some time under previous owners, and we are now requesting expansion to the second floor. If you've been in the Das Beer House, they have these very beautiful bench-style seating, German-style seating, and it adds to the atmosphere, but you really don't fit a whole lot of people in there. So Mr. McKinney is requesting to expand to the second floor. The second floor is mainly tables. There's a small service bar that would have approximately 8 chairs around it, but it would be 12 tables that would seat approximately 50 additional seats. He's expecting 7 additional employees, which would be 5 wait staff and 1 bartender and 1 barback food runner to serve the second floor. Mr. McKinney attends the South Baltimore Neighborhood Association meetings monthly, and at the April meeting, he presented his proposal, and there was no objection. I understand from review of the file that there was no letter of support or opposition, but he had presented to the board and Mr. Murphy, and there was no objection to his proposal. There are no violations. As Mr. McKinney took over, the liquor board computer database goes back about 2 or 3 owners, but since he's had the place since January 2016, there are no violations. So we most respectfully request that the board approve this application.
Great. Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I have one. The request is to extend the restaurant to the second floor.
Yes, sir.
I see where you have live entertainment on the first floor.
First floor.
Would you be considering having live entertainment on the second floor at any point?
No, because there's not enough space. We want to use it mainly for dining room, but there wouldn't be enough room for live entertainment on the second
I
floor.
suspected that based on the presentation your lawyer made, but just for clarity, understand that you don't have, if we do approve this, we will not be given permission for you to have live entertainment on the second floor. If you want that, you have to include that in your application.
Understandable.
And your permit.
Correct. But I have no wish to have live entertainment on the second floor, just because we can't fit a band or any kind of music up there.
Right, I mean, it includes DJs as well.
Yeah.
Right, so.
DJs are considered live entertainment, so you don't have DJs upstairs.
No.
It's just
Right.
tables and
But
chairs.
again, it's probably zone where you could request that and have it added to your permit and to your liquor license where I'm just trying to prevent something from happening.
Right.
Looks like the square footage, what's approximately the square footage of that second floor?
2,000?
The numbers on the floor plan are, I don't know what they are. I think they have to do something with the engineer scale, but that's not feet. The place is only, it's just how many feet across is that? Is that a double building or a single building?
It's a single row home.
Single row home size, so it's really not that big.
Okay.
It's like 612 feet or something like that.
Yeah, looks like it's pretty small.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously, the record demonstrates, as Mr. Previs said, that there's no violations, Mr. McKinney, on the record. And so with that, are there any further questions, Commissioners?
No further questions.
Based on the testimony before us, I would vote to approve the application to expand the premises to include the second floor.
I concur and vote to approve the application to expand premises to include the second floor.
I concur also.
Great. Good
Thank
luck.
you very
Yep.
much.
Thank you, good luck. No exhibits.
Lucky's Pennington Station, 4901 Pennington Avenue. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. Request for hardship extension under provisions of Article 12-2202. Please come forward.
Good morning.
Morning.
Commissioners. I won't call anyone acting. I won't do the same mistake
It's-
my good friend Mr. Previs made.
Well, we see Mr. Previs every week, so it's okay. We don't mind needling him a bit.
There was a time
It's a
we
good thing,
saw-
actually, Mr. Kadinsky isn't here. We have a good time with him, too.
Right, there was a time we saw each other every day. We were in the same building years ago before they decided to tear it down and throw us all out. Be it as it may, that was good old 5 Light Street. That's now 1 Light Street about to open. Not moving in there, the rent's a little too great. In any event.
That's the reason you're here.
That's probably right. The reason I'm here is I was blessed about a year ago by the Orphans Court to become the successor personal representative of Terry Lee Geoghegan. I may be mispronouncing the last name. Sometime after I was appointed, I learned of a liquor license, and I've had less than cooperation from the prior PR, Verna Hartlove. Be it as it may, she allowed the liquor license to expire without properly being renewed and so forth, but I understand that was her MO. But my role really is, as the personal representative, to satisfy any creditors and ultimately to distribute the estate to not only Ms. Hartlove, but to 2 other heirs of the estate, Mary Evans and a Shirley Riles, I believe it is. There are probably many issues that go on here, and the hardship is probably the amount of time I've had to put into this thing thus far, let alone the heirs have a right to inherit. There were errors done by Ms. Hartlove. I think she's pretty well known to counsel for the Liquor Board and even to Mr. Previs, who just left. In any event, it's my goal, having been appointed by the court, and in fact, getting an order of court in the Orphans Court, to sell the property, sell the license at public auction, which had been at the objection of Ms. Hartlove and led to a hearing, which ultimately there is a court order that should be in your file that is dated April 30th, 2018, wherein she was denied my removal, and I stayed in. And in addition, specifically, there was a direction that by the Orphans Court that I sell the license at public auction. I've learned, of course, that without having the license renewed, there is nothing to sell, then there is no real estate here. And it would serve a hardship on all parties that inherit and any creditors, including potentially IRS comptroller and the like. So my request respectfully is that the extension be granted so that I can then arrange to sell this license.
Okay, so there's a couple issues that you've raised, so I want to sort of walk through them. Mr. Akris, could you please come up? I want to make sure that this license is valid, because it sounds, based on the evidence, that it lapsed at some point. So I want to make sure that we have a legitimate license.
No problem. No problem, Mr. Chair. This license lapsed on April 30th, 2018, because the licensee at the time, Ms. Hartlove, did not renew her license application and it ceased operation. At that point, the license would have lapsed 180 days after the establishment had closed. However, at that time, Mr. Drager had filed a hardship extension. Mr. Drager also filed a secured creditor application with the Liquor Board based on the order signed by the Honorable Garrett Lewin, assigning him as personal representative for the purposes of disposing of the liquor license. So at that time, I believe Mr. Drager filed, I don't have when he filed in front of me, I believe that may be in the boards.
He filed the letter, at least the hardship letter, on July 26th, which certainly meets within the 180 days.
Correct. That way, thereby, the license is still valid because it was filed within 180 days, and I believe he filed a secured creditor transaction as well on the same day. So the license now, and I don't have the license in front of me, should be in the name of secured creditor as personal representative, Mr. Drager. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. That is correct.
So
Great.
Because he had followed all these steps in accordance with the alcoholic beverages article, the license is valid. And as Mr. Drager is not only personal representative for disposing of or because he is personal representative, he has an interest as per 12-2202 in making this request before the board.
Great. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that for the record.
Thank you for your clarification.
Okay. And so the plan is to sell this, and obviously the letter or the court order will be accepted into evidence. Commissioners, do you have any question?
None.
No questions.
Okay. Thank you. Based on the testimony and the evidence before us, I would vote to grant the hardship extension 180 days, not to exceed 360 days.
I concur and vote to grant the extension for 180 days.
I concur. All of the above.
There you go.
Thank you very
Yep,
much.
sure
Thank
thing.
you.
As a technical matter, do I need to receive any paperwork from you all?
No.
You're fine. Just going forward, obviously, make sure you're in contact with Mr. Akris on some of the steps so we can
Okay.
get it resolved.
Okay,
Thank
thank you very much.
Michael Exhibit for the record, Board Exhibit 1, court order. Thank you.
(2014) West Pratt Street. This is a Class A beer, wine, and liquor license. A request for a transfer hardship extension under Article 12-1705, small b. Please come forward.
Mr. Hurdle, he can sit down if
Sure.
it's easier, should we need anything.
I think you take a seat here, Mr. Shu, that should be fine.
Good morning.
Good morning. Abraham Hurdle on behalf of 2014 West Pratt Street. With me is Brian Shealy, the sole licensee or applicant.
Mr. Shealy, can we get you sworn in?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
There was a hearing held on this matter in February of 2018, transferring the license from the previous owners to the new owner, Mr. Shealy. He has been struggling with, my understanding, of some of the inspections, and we've asked for a 3-month extension so that we can complete those inspections and finalize the transfer.
Can I ask which inspections are holding you up?
My understanding is they've been struggling with the building inspection. Fire inspection, I think, was fine, but I think they're just having to start over again at some point. It just became a big issue.
Okay, so we expect that, should we grant it, that it'll be resolved in 90 days?
That's my understanding, absolutely.
All right. Commissioners, any questions?
Questions?
Commissioner Jones has that smile on it. Okay, based upon the evidence before us and the proffer by Mr. Hurdle, I would agree to the request for the transfer of the hardship extension, 90 days not to exceed 270 days.
I concur and approve the request for a transfer for the extension of a transfer for 90 days.
And I concur with all that.
Wonderful. May we be excused?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No exhibits.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Medusa Restaurant and Lounge LLC, trading as Medusa, 401 West Baltimore Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license. A request for transfer hardship extension under Article 12-1705, small b. Please come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And your name?
Anton Burgos.
Okay, we don't have, spell that, if you could spell A-N-T-O-N?
T-H-O-N.
Your last name?
Burgos Pole.
Oh, so it's, okay.
You are the licensee.
Burgos.
B-U-R-G-O-S.
Is that dash poll? Is that your-
Pole. It's just space pole.
You raise your right hand for us, please.
Sir?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
So, Mr. Pohl, you're here today to request a transfer of a hardship or a hardship extension based for the transfer of ownership.
Yes.
Can you, based on our record, you filed timely. We've received a letter in time. Can you tell us what the hardship is?
The previous owner still doesn't have all his paperwork in order, and we just need a little more time for him to figure that out.
When you say his paperwork for,
My understanding is that he has unpaid tax still, and they're not letting us transfer over the license.
is this something, sir, that you think would be accomplished within 90 days?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Based on the evidence, the testimony, I would approve the transfer, the hardship extension for the transfer. The wording always confuses me. For 90 days, not to exceed 270 days.
I concur and vote to approve the hardship extension for the transfer for 90 days.
And I concur also.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank
No
you.
exhibits
Good
for
luck.
the record.
Did we wrap up a morning docket faster than Chairman Matriciani?
That's true, Mr. Chairman. The board is in recess until Thursday, August the 30th, 11 a.m. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
You.
You guys did a great job.
Well, thanks to you.
Great job acting chairman.
He loves it.